I mean, so first and foremost, I think something that's really unique about Charity Water is your fundraising model. Can you explain a little bit about how it works and why you created it that way?
Sure. Yes. So about 15 years ago, when my husband Scott was thinking about starting Charity Water, I was still working in advertising in New York City. He noticed that so many nonprofits were not very trusted by the public. And he himself noticed after his kind of a reinvention of himself, going into the nonprofit space, wanting to start a charity, all of his friends were like, Scott, we don't really trust charities. How are you going to make sure that you're different? How are you going to make sure that when people give to your charity, you're not sort of being put in that same pool of the big charities that have sort of lost the public's trust? So he, from the very beginning, said he wanted to create this 100% giving model that was very clean, so that mostly in the very beginning was just so that he could tell his friends, there is beyond a shadow of a doubt, you can trust Charity Water, because we give every single dollar that you donate to Charity Water. We give that to the projects that we build, and that was kind of the biggest point of distrust, is because a lot of people didn't know how much of their money, when they give to a charity, how much of their money was going to the field to build the actual projects the charity works on, and how much of that money was actually being taken for overhead. How is it being spent? Is this being spent responsibly? What are your salaries, etc.? So from the very beginning, we wanted to unmuddle that. And when I came to join Charity Water in the third month of its founding, this was already in place. So Scott had already kind of cemented in place this 100% giving model. And yeah, we kept it really simple. He talks about this all the time. We opened 2 bank accounts. One was for our for the money going to the field, and the other bank account was for money to pay for our staff salaries, to pay for our office rent, to pay for our flights to the field, everything from ink, toner to paper clips. And we've always kept those 2 accounts separate. So in a way, we made our job double hard, because we not only had to raise money for the water project, we also had to separately find a completely other group of donors to donate money to the other bank account to keep our lights on, essentially, and to keep our salaries paid. But it paid off for us, because that purity of this giving model, where a kid who gives $20 on our website knows that every dollar of that kid's bank account, or their piggy bank that they really cracked open to give one person clean water, all of that $20 or all of that $40 is going to go straight to building a water project, and it's not going to go to pay for our flights or our salaries. And we've kept it that way ever since. It's been just, when other charities ask us, do you recommend it? Sometimes we scratch our heads and we're like, there are years where we would really say it's not for everyone, because it is so hard keeping these 2 things in balance. Because if we have too much money for water projects and we can't pay our salaries,
right,
then we don't have enough people
to do the work.
We can't do the work. We can't deploy that money responsibly. But on the other hand, same thing, if we have too much money for our overhead, but we don't have enough money for water projects. So there's honestly every year there's a constant dance. And a lot of our most loyal supporters, our major donors, have always kind of asked us, hey, where do you need money most this year? And we've been known to kind of bounce people back and forth. Hey, this year we'd love your gift to go to water projects. Or actually, this year we really need the overhead money more. So it's been interesting.
You know what I love about that? I had a webinar actually earlier today, and somebody was talking about how to transition their donors to giving for maybe operational expenses. And they were afraid to do that. And I said, have you ever asked?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a conversation?
You know what? The number one reason donors stop giving is because they don't know where their money's going. So if you just tell them where their money is going, even if it's going to go to pay your gas bill or your
Totally.
water bill for your office, or unsexy things like to hire law firms so that you can make sure your 501c3 status is in check. So, we found, if you just tell a donor, hey, I need $10,000 because I need to pay lawyers, that's way better than this kind of wishy-washy.
Absolutely.
Under our mission, but then because everyone knows that any business person knows that there are unsexy expenses in running any organization. And so donors are.
And they get it because they work for businesses too.
Absolutely.
It's not a secret. People, you need, they themselves have a salary and they need to be able to support their family. Like everything goes together. I love that. I mean, in the same way, talking about corporate sponsorships, how do you have a beautiful website that illustrates that your partnerships, when you reach out to brands, are mutually beneficial, but you also want them to understand the impact and you want them to feel the impact of giving with you guys. How did, from the beginning, when you were first starting to now, how have you approached doing partnerships with brands?
Gosh, well, one thing for sure is that we now have a whole team working on this. And really the biggest shift, I'll say, that I think a lot of this is just the natural way, organizations grow. In the beginning, we took any partnership that was offered to us from any brand almost, really with the exception of, Scott always jokes, we'll never take money from guns, tobacco, and soft drinks like sugary soda, because for us, water is a big deal, and or bottled water anyway. So, but other than that, we really did take almost every every opportunity that came along our way in the first 2-3 years. And we learned a lot from that because, as you know, if you're starting out, when you don't use discretion and when you don't know how to say no, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. You end up pursuing opportunities that really weren't for you, that shouldn't be taking up your valuable time. And so over the years, we've really changed from being reactive to being proactive. So now, and this is perfect because this is what you're teaching, what you're doing now is all about this, is, being proactive and reaching out to brands that you want to work with and actually pitching them. Hey, this is our idea. We really didn't do that, until I want to say, well into our 6th or 7th year at the organization, because for the first few years, we just didn't have the capacity to be proactive. Now we have a whole team working on brand partnerships at the very highest level, right? So we've had a very long-standing partnership with the company Aveda. We had a few great partnerships with companies like Away, the suitcase company, with Corksicle. I
saw that tag.
Yeah, with Corksicle, with hundreds of different very cool smaller startups and established brands. I remember the first fun one for us was when we partnered with Tom Shoes years and years ago, and we co-branded a couple of shoes that were water related with interesting kind of themes.
I think I remember when that happened.
Yeah. I remember this sort of excitement in our community around that, because so many people supported Charity Water and also loved the Tom's brand. Mm-hmm. And when we announced it, I remember the amount of dollars raised from that partnership was nominal. I don't want to say how much it was, but it was maybe, I think it was less than $20,000, which for us is low. But the social kind of the feel good, the brand halo from that partnership was huge. People were super excited. And I think there's kind of that balance to consider also as well. So now at Charity Water, we really strive for both. We want to partner with an organization, with businesses and brands that align with our values. That's kind of the most important one for us. And that are really passionate about our mission, because we're pretty we're kind of super hyper focused, I want to say, on solving the water crisis in our lifetime. And really this is, this is kind of coming down from Scott. His whole philosophy on partnerships is we just don't have time to mess around with brands who do not take our mission seriously and who don't and who look at this partnership as a self-serving, charity slacktivism type of a partnership where, oh, we'll talk about you. We're not actually going to sacrificially give of our resources to Charity Water. We'll just give you our platform and hope that our customers jump over to become Charity Water supporters. To us, that's not enough. So we kind of go into partnerships saying this is the minimum that we're willing to do this for. Can you commit to $100,000 of water dollars? Can you commit to give or get to get from your customers or to give from your company this much towards water projects? If not, then we're kind of not interested, because I do think that there's so much power in partnerships that result in real lives changed
and impact.
Yeah, nonprofits are so often we just have such limited resources, right? Nonprofits are held under a different kind of a microscope of scrutiny of how many people we have on staff, of how we use our operating dollars, how much our salaries, right? And so we all in the nonprofit world really work to run a very lean organization, I would hope. Now there's definitely, a balance there as well, because there's this poverty mentality situation that can arise from that. But I do think still, we need to be responsible with how we use donor dollars for salaries. So we can't afford to get ourselves involved in partnerships that are not going to help us, raise money towards our mission and a significant amount of money. So that's kind of how we approach our partnerships now. And
I think it's great that, and it sounds like for every partnership, you're actually having conversations about the mission of what you're trying to do. It's not just, here's our PDF where you can select a package of A, B, or C. And that's the point of this workshop, is to come up with ideas that are valuable and help create a story and impact, not only for the donors of the nonprofit, but also the consumers of the brand. So they're educated about, I didn't even know this was a problem in the world.
Yeah.
And my 5% of my proceeds of purchasing X product might help this cause that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. And I'll say too, when you have quality partnerships, so it's like when you go into a partnership and already that it's the brand is not going to be, that it's not going to be lucrative for your mission, the amount of effort your team is going to be able to put into that partnership is going to be diminished, right? Because you're already going in thinking, oh, this is probably going to be, I'm not sure that this is going to be worth our time. When you have only high quality brand partnerships, at least for us at Charity Water, what tends to happen is we get so excited as a culture, as a staff, about, what can we do with the way? Let's have brainstorms. Let's pour all of our creativity into coming up with the most interesting way to fully realize the potential of this partnership. And let's, and we'll, in these brainstorms, we'll come up with really cool, interesting ideas. What to do at the point of sale? How can we take over their store for the month of, for the month of the partnership? And I just think fewer, better partnerships are the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Having those deeper, long-term relationships. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool. Transitioning, if I can say the word a little bit, from partnerships into the spring. So this is another very unique aspect of Charity Water. And I think monthly giving now more than ever, people are realizing is so important. The same way as a lot of your partnerships are not from a one-off gala or virtual event. They are, whether it is a partial proceeds or it's helping like the away bag, right? That was partial proceeds too, or a content piece with the VR film. It's things that will live on past just a one-off event. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the spring and doing monthly giving, I know that's something that a lot of nonprofits are talking about right now, especially to have some consistent donations coming in month after month.
Mm-hmm.
And you named it, which I love. How did the strategy for the spring start?
Yeah. Well, there's kind of a rumor around Charity Water that it started with Scott having a conversation with the founder of Spotify, Daniel Ek, who said, if you want to, because we'd had a monthly giving like checkbox all the way down to the bottom of the donation flow for a couple of years, and it really wasn't working. And it was just kind of like
most people have it. It's all the way at the bottom, and it's
totally. And that's what this is what I'm sort of so excited to teach in the coming month. This is the wrong way to do it. Like, there's definitely a mindset shift that needs to happen if you want to have a successful, thriving community of monthly givers. And there's so many benefits to it. But, so Daniel said to Scott, he was like, I see that you're trying to be in the subscription business. He's like, if you want to be in the subscription business, you got to start acting like it, which means when you're in the subscription business, you're really in the customer service business. Yeah. So, and you are also in the business of building a product. You're in the product development business. And what is a product? A product is something that is not something you set and forget. It's a living, breathing thing that you invest in. You invest resources behind. You continually improve over time, and you test. You try different things, and that's what constitutes a product. So the strategy behind the spring from the very beginning was, well, I shouldn't say from the beginning, because we had a monthly giving, like I said, option for a couple of years that wasn't working. But when we launched the spring, that was the strategy we said we were launching with, which is that we're gonna treat this like a central product of the organization. We're gonna resource it. We're gonna have people dedicated to working only on this. Mm-hmm. We're going to continue to test and iterate. We're gonna pool we're gonna back it with everything we've got. And that included the marketing from the very beginning. So when we sort of relaunched it with the hopes of it being successful, we shot this video.
Oh, I love this.
That was 20 minutes long. Everybody was like, "You're crazy. 20 minutes is way too." I think it was actually 30 minutes in the beginning. People, everyone kind of sort of said this is way too long, and the budget for it was probably 5 times bigger than any of our other videos. And we really referenced Kony 2012. It was for some of you, I don't know if people are remember or aware. So there was an organization called Invisible Children. They had this viral video.
They were all the rage when I was in college.
Yes, they were. And they were literally my heroes. When we were starting Charity Water, every day I was on their website. I was on the website of Invisible Children.
What did they sell? Didn't they sell? Was it
they had a million different campaigns. They had the Try campaign where you could donate $3. They had a lot of activism campaigns. They had the remember the sleep out in fields, where they would have high school students go and sleep out in giant fields to raise awareness for these for the kids that were so scared to sleep in their homes because Joseph Kony armies would come at night and kidnap little boys, to recruit them to the LRA, the Lord's Resistance Army. So they would have, in America, they would gather all these high school kids and have them sleep out so that they could raise awareness for Invisible Children's cause. And during that night, they would have speakers come in, et cetera. So, and then they had a bracelet campaign. They had lots and lots of, and that's kind of where I think a lot of Charity Water's campaign-based fundraising in the very beginning, the first 5-6 years, was in a way inspired by Invisible Children, because
their video went viral on YouTube. I remember that.
Yes. And it was, so we actually hired Jason Russell and his wife, Danica. So Jason had, left Invisible Children after Kony 2012. It sort of all fizzled away. And Jason, after that, started his own video production company, which he still has now. And he's actually worked for a lot of awesome causes, nonprofits. They recently did Preemptive Love's video, and they did a video for fundraise.com. So yeah, they're doing great. So we hired Jason to help us craft the story, and for 3 months we worked together with him. It was really fun. But I think the biggest kind of takeaway that I want to point to with this specifically, why this video worked so well, and continues to actually work so well for us to continue to drive traffic to the spring and to get us new spring members. Number one, it was a great story. Number two, the ask at the end of the video was very singular. The call to action was join the spring, which is a big sort of thing that a lot of nonprofits miss. They'll make a video that describes their mission, and at the end of the video, it's just like charitywater.com, charitywater.org. And there's no specific ask. There's no, there's no action point that's very simple to execute for donors or for viewers. And so that's what we made sure to do. The whole entire video kind of culminated in an ask to join the spring to help us end the water crisis in our lifetime. And then we put a lot of Facebook dollars behind it, and it really worked and continues to work today, performing very well on Facebook, getting new traffic to the spring every single day.
Awesome. I just switched to why do you think the spring has been so successful, which you just answered. I think also something that's really powerful is speaking to the fact that you put people, you put staff members, you put dollars behind this as a product. And then you mentioned something key too about customer service. So once you join the spring, you're not just like, bye, thanks for your money, see you never. It's you get communication with a special newsletter every month, right?
Every month you get a newsletter, which is full of really tangible stories. So we work really hard to make sure every month there's an inspiring story, and it's different every month. So it doesn't feel repetitive, but there's either a story about our employees in the field who work the drilling rig in Ethiopia, and what that team is like, and what are their names, and how many kids they have. So we'll tell stories about our team in the field. We'll tell stories about people that are being served. We tell stories about people starting small businesses who've gotten clean water, etc. So we keep it fresh. We also now have a completely custom-built logged-in experience, which I realize not every organization has the manpower capacity to do. But we didn't launch with that at all. We launched with we just recently added that. The whole logged-in experience is very cool because when you log into the spring, you can see your cumulative impact. You can see how much over your lifetime you've donated, how many people that's helped, and a breakdown of all the countries where your money is gone. So it's cool because every time you log in, there's something new. We've also created a binge-worthy series called The Journey. Every quarter, we take our spring members to a different country and it's kind of entertaining. It's fun for kids to watch. It's hosted by one of our employees, Tyler, who's.
And I thought that is a very sponsorable thing.
Mm-hmm. I know. You told me that. That we really still have to. I think that's still an idea that I've got to push through the ranks at Charity Water a little bit more. Actually, I should just go downstairs and talk to Scott about it today.
I think I have an idea for you.
Yeah. Hey.
These are all accessible, by the way, you guys. These beautiful pieces of video content are on your Facebook page. And they're easy to find because they have titled them with the journeys, which is a big thing that a lot of people don't do is organize video content. So they are organized and it says the journey, and I think it says the country.
Yeah. So, we usually premiere it to the spring, then we make it public. So the spring kind of feels like it's a thing that was special made for this community, but then we also kind of want to put it out to the wider audience. And I think just monthly giving in general is it's like the saying, the grass is greener where you water it, right? So if you put it down if you bury a little checkbox in a donation flow,
totally,
it's not going to work.
Right.
If you work it, if you resource it, we just hired about a year ago, we hired we have a product lead, our VP of subscription is this amazing woman who came to us from Glossier, and all she does, her entire job at Charity Water is to run the team that thinks about how to optimize conversion, how to create interesting new ways of getting people to do a trial, 3-month trial of the spring, different kind of ideas, things that we're testing, different price points, et cetera, how to upsell people who are already in the spring, how to create content that matters to our spring members, how to make sure that we're not communicating too much. We have this thing, we want to be a welcome guest in a person's inbox. We want to be instead of being a pest, we want to be a welcome guest.
An excited email that you get. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a balance we strike. And we actually ask, people can opt out of these emails. So it's pretty sophisticated, but it actually doesn't have to be that way to begin with. You can just start by letting people know where their money is going every month. And that goes a long way because a lot of nonprofits just send you a tax receipt every month.
Yep.
We're like, here's your receipt for your monthly subscription, which reminds people that, they're still taking money out of my bank account and I'm not really seeing what's happening with that money. So maybe I should unsubscribe. The average American has 11 subscriptions.
Wow. That's really true. Between like HBO, Netflix,
Blue Apron,
we do HelloFresh
workout program, right? Like if you're doing OpenFit or Peloton or whatever, to any entertainment, including Spotify, including music streaming services. And my thing is like, why shouldn't your nonprofit be the 12th? Your nonprofit should be the 12th. But still, so many nonprofits struggle with creating this mentality of like, it's almost like a lot of nonprofits think that fundraising has to be hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard. It can actually be really fun and rewarding.
And I love, that's great that you just said that, because I think this workshop is designed for all sizes. So if you're listening and you're super tiny, or if you're large, I think a lot of the struggle with change usually comes from senior leadership. And so for people who are listening that might be struggling to put some new ideas into practice, do you have any tips or advice for, especially on the corporate sponsors or on the monthly giving side, of taking a little bit of a risk to see what happens? Because unless you take a risk, then, I mean, if Scott and if you wouldn't have taken a risk on starting Charity Water, none of this would have happened. You know what I mean? All the people that you've helped wouldn't have happened. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, look, I think a lot of the time we don't want to take a risk until we're forced to take a risk. And I just really believe that this time we're living through with the pandemic and social distancing and everyone understanding that working remotely is probably going to be the new way of working going forward. I think there's so much that we've got to change from the inside out about the ideas about how business or nonprofits have been run. Now are, I think, going to be more and more being flipped on their heads. And it's just absolutely essential to embrace risk taking now and to embrace change, because your survival depends on it at this current moment, right? I mean, what you're teaching and what I'm teaching right now is a direct result of COVID-19, because people have been forced out of their traditional ways of fundraising, of having one-on-one in-person interactions, of so many nonprofits have sort of fallen into a rut of like, well, we'll just fundraise by having an event once a quarter, and we'll have a team of fundraisers who take donors out to lunch and fly around the country, and regional fundraising managers, which we also have had at Charity Water and still do, which those teams are incredibly important because there's definitely a personal element to fundraising, but at the same time, you've got to have an innovation team that is also thinking maybe sort of
almost all the time.
Yeah, maybe like an incubator inside of your organization, which is actually something we've always, the way we've done it at Charity Water is we've had hackathons once a year. It's a very techie Silicon Valley, thing to do. And at first everybody was like, oh, this is a little silly. Are we really going to do a hackathon for 3 days, stop everything we're doing? actually, over the last few years, they've been getting better and better. And some of the most interesting ideas have come out of these 3-day hackathons we've done every
I went
year.
to one actually in New York. As a volunteer for Thorn. So Ashton Kutcher's organization to end kind of like cyber trafficking. And it was awesome. I was part of a marketing team. And then there was a whole bunch of developers and coders that had volunteered from Expedia and all these different companies. And then even Ashton was there most of the time, went table by table, wanted to hear the ideas. He sat and listened as each of the coders went up and like presented a solve. And it was incredible to see the ideas. If you can actually focus on one problem, or just that number of time, like the amazing ideas you come up with, and then you're like, okay, great, let's go implement A, B, and C.
Totally. It's really powerful if it's done right. And I think there's a learning curve to these hackathons because, like I said, when we started doing them, they were a hot mess. We didn't know what we were doing. But since then, we have a voting system a month in advance on the entire organization votes ideas up and down. So out of that process, about 5 or 10 of the best ideas emerge. And then people say, I want to be on this team. I want to be on team monthly giving. I want to be on team sensors. I want to be on team virtual reality, etc. And like, for example, we've always for a long time said we wanted to try our hand at disaster relief response. But we never had a system to react to a disaster fast enough. And so in 3 days of a hackathon a couple of years ago, a small team got together and they worked on, okay, so the next time a natural disaster happens and we can be a part of, helping immediately respond with bladders of clean water, let's say if there's an earthquake, etc. Here's how we would do it. Here's the process. Here's the chain of command. Here's how we're going to execute this quickly. They created a sort of template of a website that we would use. And then that was what we used to respond. This is actually now, 6-7 years ago, when the earthquake in Nepal happened in Kathmandu. We used part of that, of what that small team built in 3 days. We used part of that to actually launch an immediate disaster relief fund for that earthquake. So there's a lot of really cool innovation that can come out of these 3-day stints where the entire organization, sort of attacks in groups problems and, and you're not working under this insane pressure because it's not real. Like you're not actually launching it. So there's a lot more creativity that can happen that way. Yeah. I remember one of the founders of Pixar, I think it was Ad Catmull, talked about, he said, innovation can only thrive in a safe environment. So a lot of organizations don't innovate because the culture that they operate under tells them that if they fail, the floor is covered in shards of glass. At Pixar, we tell all of our employees that when they fail, the floor is covered in pillows and feathers. So like, if you fail, you're not going to be punished for it. You're not going to be penalized. We'll actually celebrate failure if it's in the name of innovation. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so good. That's going to be a quote.
It's got to come down. It's got to come top down, right? Sure. And don't innovate when you're like at hour 23 and you have to launch something, right? That's not the time to innovate.
Right. We need something tomorrow. That's not allowing for creativity to flow. Now you're feeling pressure.
Right. Exactly. And you're afraid to make a mistake because you got to launch tomorrow. If it's a more free-flowing environment, then a lot of people, people are more, they're less afraid to throw out really big, crazy ideas because I
love doing the brainstorm where it's like, what if ... And then you just start to throw out ideas. And it's always the yes and, or yes, or how to encourage those types of brainstorm sessions instead of,
instead of this won't work. Yeah, that's, everyone can poo-poo an idea. That's the easiest thing to do.
Exactly.
It's harder to actually sit with it for a minute and entertain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you have given so many amazing nuggets. Thank you so much for your time and coming on here. You have a monthly giving launch guide where I know you'll go into way more details about monthly giving and breaking that down. Where can people, do you want to give a little bit of a insight as to what that's going to consist of?
Sure. Well, it's actually probably going to be similar to what this is, a course that is in 4 parts. So it's what I cover is really the case for monthly giving, why it really is the way forward for a lot of organizations, and it's the most efficient and I think innovative way to raise money these days, even though monthly giving, as it were, has been around for ages. And that's why in the beginning for us, we were like, oh, we don't want to do it because it's already been done. But actually there's so much innovation that can happen within it. So that's kind of the first thing is, why now? And how do you, and sort of changing the mindset of how do you actually treat it like a product and what does that mean? So that's kind of the basis of the first module or the section. Then we talk about the marketing of it. How do you market it successfully? Then we talk about how to actually launch it. So it's called the Monthly Giving Launch Guide. So I'm not teaching kind of abstract concepts. I'm actually sort of talking people through, okay, so what do you do the first week it launches? What do you do pre-launch? What does launch day look like? And then the fourth section is retention and growth. How do you actually think about retaining monthly givers, your subscribers?
That's huge.
Because that's huge, right? So you can't have a leaky bucket. You can't have people coming in and then coming out the other end because you're only sending them tax receipts. So how do you keep them engaged and involved and actually upsell them? And how do you grow it? So that's all going to be covered in the Monthly Giving Launch Guide, which is actually right now what I'm working on. So in about a couple weeks here, I'll start to really tighten the program up, and I'll have a launch date coming soon. But it's all going to be startup.com. Yeah.
Yes, amazing. I want to download this. This sounds amazing, just to be able to understand it better and have better conversations around it. Yeah, you guys check out thebrandedstartup.com. That will have more information for you guys. And also, I think you can sign up there. Do you have an email newsletter that people can join?
Yes, I do. And it'll be, you'll find a link there, or sorry, you'll find a place where you can sign up for the actual launch of the Monthly Giving Launch Guide as well on the homepage of thebrandedstartup.com.
Amazing. Awesome. Anywhere else that people can find you? I know I love your Instagram content.
That's where I hang out, at Vik Harrison on Instagram. Yeah, that's my home. So that's where you can find me talking about all kinds of nonprofit fun things.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and doing this. And I hope to talk to you soon. And you guys, I hope this was so beneficial and helpful for you as you plan out your digital sponsorships and your monthly giving strategies. See you guys later.
Thanks, Dana.